In the last episode, we ranked John Lennon's solo post-Beatle breakup albums. This time, we're going to look at his early songwriting partner, Paul McCartney. To date, Paul has recorded 49 albums. 25 are studio albums. There's 4 compilation albums, 8 live ones, 7 classical albums, and 5 electronica albums. I'm not going to review all of these, but let's look at his #1 albums, of which there are quite a few. Are you ready? Okay, let's drop the needle. Years ago, Apple released the Beatles' One album that showcased all of the 27 #1 hit songs by the Beatles. Oh, and by the way, that album hit #1 on most of the worldwide charts. Taking that as an inspiration, I've decided to look at the albums that Paul has released after the breakup of the Beatles that hit #1. And as I said, there are quite a few. Now I know there are other ways to judge music besides popularity, such as chord progression, melodies, integrity versus banality of the lyrics, timing, and competition in the charts. Naturally, you can't judge an album purely by its popularity, but by being a #1 album, it means lots of people bought it, so they must have enjoyed it. Paul's first solo album, McCartney, appeared on April 1970, just after he announced he was leaving the Beatles. It was recorded in his house at St. John's Woods, not far from Abbey Road, and he played all the instruments himself. But the biggest news was the press release that was included in the UK pressings. I got a copy in a radio station in LA. I read it on the airwaves. What's in there and what Paul has to say was devastating to Beatle fans. Quote, "Did you miss the other Beatles and George Martin? Was there a moment when you thought, I wish Ringo was here for the break?" Paul, no. Are you planning a new album or a single with the Beatles? Paul, no. Do you foresee a time when Lennon-McCartney becomes an active songwriting partnership again? Paul, no. Very hard stuff to hear from Paul. The album contains very stripped-down songs, some unfinished, but a couple of killers. Standouts are That Would Be Something, Every Night, and of course, the amazing Maybe I'm Amazed. Paul's second album, Ram, was recorded in Los Angeles and released in May of 1971. It peaked at #2. One of the songs on Ram is called Too Many People, and it started a well-known public fight between him and John Lennon. Lennon thought, rightfully so I think, that the song was a kind of little scratchy put down from Paul on John. John retaliated with a scathing song called How Do You Sleep, which tore McCartney apart and was recorded on Lennon's album Imagine. Imagine hit #1. Paul's Ram stalled at 2. The fight was on. After 2 solo albums, Paul decided he really wanted to be in a band, so he formed a new group called Wings and recorded an album called Wildlife. And the less said about that album, the better. In 1973, Paul found his legs and recorded Red Rose Speedway, which shot to #1, propelled by the mega hit My Love. Later that same year, Paul releases the now classic Band on the Run album, which again shoots immediately to the #1 spot. So many great songs, but my favorites are the title track, Jet, Let Me Roll It, which sounds a lot like John Lennon, Picasso's Last Words, Drink to Me, and 1985. But Paul's just getting going. In the next year, 1975, he releases Venus and Mars, which debuts at #1. Great songs, and what brings me back to this album are Venus and Mars, Rock Show, Magneto and Titanium Man, Letting Go, and Call Me Back Again. In 1976, Paul releases 2 albums, both of which go to #1. The first is Wings at the Speed of Sound, and standout tracks are Let 'Em In and his hit Silly Love Songs. Later that year, he releases a massive 3-disc set called Wings Over America. It's a live album, and not only does it have all of the Wings hits, but for the first time since the breakup of the Beatles, Paul actually plays Beatles songs, like Lady Madonna, I've Just Seen a Face, and Yesterday. Little-known Wings songs like Hi 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 and Soli are also included. It's a great live record. Between '76 and 1980, Paul releases albums, but none of them hit number 1. London Town stalls at 2. Back to the Egg only reaches 8. McCartney 2, released in May 1980, only can go to 3. In 1982, Paul releases Tug of War, and again, it hits number 1. Great songs are Tug of War, Here Today, written for John Lennon, Ballroom Dancing, Wonderlust, and Ebony and Ivory, his duet with Stevie Wonder. This is Paul's 7th number 1 album since the Beatles broke up. From 1983 to 1977, Paul releases 6 albums, but not one of them becomes a number 1. Pipes of Peace in October 1983 stalls at number 15. Give My Regards to Broad Street in October of 1984 goes to number 21. Press to Play in August of 1986 can only go to 30. Then the Chop B CCCP, or Back in the USSR album, released in October 1988, stops at number 109. Unheard of for Paul. Flowers in the Dirt comes out in June 1989. It's his great collaboration with Elvis Costello, but it stops at number 21. In 1993, he releases Off the Ground. It stops at number 17. In the 90s, Paul is still recording, but the music world has changed, and it seems like he's out of touch. Then he rejoins with Ringo and George to do the Beatles anthology records and TV show, and in doing so, they record new vocals to John Lennon's demo songs, Free as a Bird and Real Love. This energizes Paul. He releases his best-selling album in over 13 years, Flaming Pie. Standout songs are The Song We Were Singing, The World Tonight, Calico Skies, the whimsical Flaming Pie, which was inspired by what John Lennon used to say when people would interview them and say, "Where did the Beatles get their name? A man came to us on a flaming pie and said, from now on you shall be Beatles with an A." I also like Really Love You. This is the first song co-written by Paul and Ringo. And then there's the great Beautiful Night, featuring Ringo on drums. Macca still has it, and he gets very close, but Flaming Pie stalls out at number 2. Between 1997 and 2013, he releases 5 albums, but again, no number 1s. Run Devil Run in October 1999 goes to 27. Driving Rain in November 2001 goes to 26. Chaos and Creation in the Backyard does better in September 2005 and gets to number 6. Memory Almost Full in 2007 goes to number 3. Kisses on the Bottom in 2012 goes to number 5. New in 2013 goes to number 3. But he still can't quite reach that number 1 spot. But then in 2018 he hits gold again with Egypt Station, his 8th number 1 album. I Like I Don't Know, Come On to Me, For You, People Want Peace, and Despite Repeated Warnings. Paul is still going strong at 78 years old, and I quite suspect we'll probably see more number 1 albums from him in the future. Okay, so we have 8 number 1 albums that he has made since the breakup of the Beatles. How do I rank them? And I'm sure you'll have a different opinion. At the number 8 spot, Red Rose Speedway. Number 7, At the Speed of Sound. Number 6, Tug of War. Number 5, McCartney. Now we're getting tough. Number 4, Wings Over America. Number 3, Egypt Station. Number 2, Venus and Mars. And of course, the number 1 album from Paul McCartney after the breakup of the Beatles, Band on the Run. Let me know your ratings or your favorite McCartney album in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you. And just like Paul, let's keep it rocking. If you liked this episode, hit the like button, and you can also leave me a comment down below, and I'll respond to you. If you subscribe, we'll let you know when future episodes come out. Most of the albums that I talk about can be found at your local vinyl store or on eBay. Individual songs most likely are on Spotify, Apple Music, or Amazon Music, or even some on YouTube.